one country in the world who can publish those kind of figures. We do have a huge number, and the exact number is one of the banners. Yes, is over 25,000, I think over 27,000 cows who have a lifetime production of 100,000 kilograms of milk. Yes, and the first few cows, yes, are nominated to reach the 200,000 kilograms of milk. Now that's a very, very high figure. And the Germans, the Australians, the Americans, the Canadians are not able to compete with this kind of figures. So that means that longevity is a very important issue. And that's also where Veepro Holland is focusing on. And we try to motivate our farmers to keep the cows longer in the farm. Because that makes it profitable. Because earlier this evening I spoke about the 1,500 euro. Now when we divide the 1,500 euro and the 100,000 kilogram lifetime production, it still means that every liter of milk is 2 cents, almost 2 cents of raising costs for 100,000. That's a lot. So we want to have more cows like that. We want to have more cows like that. That's our breeding goal. This afternoon in the classroom we spoke about breeding goal, but this is our breeding goal in the Netherlands. Longevity. Yes? If you ask the Dutch farmer, what do you prefer, 9,000 kilograms of milk per cow or 4 lactations, then it's quite clear, 4 lactations. Yes? 9,000 kilograms, okay, what to do? The cow has to work much harder. No, we want to keep our cows a little longer on the farm. That makes it much more profitable. Yeah. The breeding, also on one of the banners is mentioned, that in the Dutch dairy industry, and that's also a very important role of Veepro Holland, to say, okay, if we want to make our country more popular abroad, even more than it already is, then we need to have data. We need to have data. Yeah? The more data, the better. We are one of the countries with breeding values almost for everything. We can inform you about the breeding values for somatic cell counts. We can inform you about breeding values for interdigital dermatitis. If you want to have breeding values about longevity, you can get it. If you want to have breeding values about immunity, you will have them. Yes? Because that's the role of Veepro, to motivate the breeding organizations to go into data. Because we want to inform our farmers on a reliable way. We don't want to cheat them. So, values, formulating goals, having a strategy, know what you want. Now we know very well what we want. And we don't want to export all our cows, but we want to let them live longer. That's our strategy. Bull selection, mating choice, of course, very important. It's not a matter of buy semen and put it in a cow and see what comes out. No, I want to make my cows become better. I want to let them become much better. That's our goal for the future, is to have more of those cows with a lifetime production of 100,000. Our goal is to reduce the somatic cell count below 150,000. Yes? Because the processors are asking for that in the Netherlands. Yes? We are an exporting country. So the processors are saying, if I want to buy your milk, but then you have to reduce your somatic cell count. Okay, then who are we? We have to. So that is also part of bull selection. We know that there are several bulls, several cow families, several breeding families. They give you healthier milk. That we know that several breeding families, several bulls, have a higher immunity. So that means they give us better colostrum, they give us more resistance against diseases, they give us better reaction against vaccines. So therefore we need to take a look at every cow as an individual. Yes? Which kind of bull is necessary to fulfill all those breeding goals. Now the breeding goals is always related to economics. It's also always the economical part. Yeah? Longevity is having a direct relation with economics. Health and fertility, no doubt. We don't allow our cows to have an extreme long calving interval. We also do not allow our farmers to start with insemination at 40, 50 days because that's wasting money. Confirmation, yes, is very important, but the most important thing on this slide is the reliability. We want to convince ourselves, Veepro wants to convince our farmers and our breeding organizations that whatever you guys are doing, make sure that you come up with data with a high reliability. Because only then we are able to convince our neighboring countries and our exporting companies to say, with this kind of data you can go abroad and you will not make mistakes. Information by way of IRIS. Now probably some people have heard of IRIS. IRIS is the Dutch registration system. Everything about our cows is on paper. That's when you see a cow somewhere in the Netherlands, take a phone, call to our breeding organization in Arnhem, and within 5 minutes you know exactly everything. The date of birth, the mother, the father, the milk production she did produced a week ago. You will be informed about the breeding value, you will be informed about the calving date, everything is known. That's a big, big challenge in comparison to many other countries. I told you in 2001 we had a foot and mouth outbreak. Within 24 hours, people in Saudi Arabia were informed by saying, my dear farmer in Saudi, you probably have a cow in your herd who comes from the farm in the Netherlands who has a foot and mouth outbreak. And then now it's up to you what to do. So the traceability, also one of the texts on the banners, traceability is extremely high. So that's also one of the things, I take a look in the future now a little bit. If next year, next month, or whenever the first cows of the Netherlands will come to your country, make sure that the ear tags will stay in their ear, always. And if they lose one of those ear tags, make sure you put in a new one, exactly the same. Only then we can trace your cows. I have seen many cows here on farms without ear tags, or they lost. That's one of the guarantees. If you take the responsibility that the Dutch cows here in Pakistan will keep their ear tags, then we can trace them till the day they die. But that's the role of IRIS, the registration system. Also, now, I said everything, so also including the AIs, the artificial inseminations. As if an AI technician has inseminated the cow, let's say at 8:30 in the evening, then he has his PDA, and within 5 minutes in Arnhem, in the official herd book association, they know, hey, AI technician named like this and that has inseminated on this and that farm, this cow with that bull. Yeah. So that's 100% safe. Yeah, go ahead. Now, the IRIS system is a responsibility for the farmers, because the farmers, they have to, they get the responsibility to inform the herd book association and to inform the registration system, hey, that this cow has calved. That's the only thing which is necessary, because the registration system knows about the father, yes, about the gestation period. Yeah. The responsibility for the registration system is that every calf, I already said before, gets a unique number. So there is not one other calf in the world, not one other calf in the farm, who is able to get the same kind of ear tag. That's impossible. Yeah? And also, to give you a little bit an idea about the traceability, we have to register and to inform the IRIS system everything about birds when a calf is born. Whether it is dead or alive doesn't matter. We have to inform the system. Yes? We also have to inform the system about animal transfers. For example, when an animal on our farm goes for a few months to the neighbor to graze in his fields, then we have to inform the IRA system. Because if something happens on one of our farms, then we are not allowed to take back all the cows immediately to save them against this destroyment. Because foot and mouth disease, I will say it one more time and then I will not speak about foot and mouth anymore because I don't like it. But if there is a foot and mouth outbreak, then within 24 hours all the cows on the farm will be destroyed. Will be destroyed. Yes? Will be killed, will be burned. Yes? And 24 hours after the outbreak, cows are completely gone. And the farm itself will be closed. Needs to be disinfected, but especially needs to be closed for a couple of weeks. So, message is full traceability. We can give you 100% guarantee that all our animals can be traced from the day of birth till the day of death. Now this is more or less the same kind of picture. Yes, I've talked about IRIS, but the Herd Book Association is also playing a key role in that. You probably will say, how can you control? Now, and what you can see here on the bottom line is that the quality check is always done. That on a certain moment you can expect a person in your farm who says, I want to take a look at that calf with that ear tag number, and I will take a DNA sample to find out that what you told us is correct. So DNA pedigree verification, approximately 500 calves a year. And that's also the basis for genetic improvement. Type classification, something new maybe, but for us, for the Dutch, is very important. Because we do not like high productive cows, we do not like old cows only, but we also like beautiful cows. Yes, it's the same. Most men are sitting here, I see one or two ladies, but most men like beautiful ladies. Now, we like beautiful cows. That gives us so much more fun to work with. I don't like cows who look bad. No, and that's the reason why more than 17,000 first calving heifers every year are being classified. Yes, and then that information again is used for the breeding values of our bulls. So that the bulls you do see here in Pakistan from ProPharma CFE will also give you a sort of guarantee that if you start using that bull, that you will get almost 100% guarantee that the daughters of that bull on your farm will look like according to figures. We also are very much focusing on some management items like milking speed and temperament, because we like milking a cow very much, but we don't want to stand in our milking parlor too long if not necessary. So that's also one of the breeding values which is very interesting for the Dutch farmers. This is more or less the classification report. And when you look at this cow, and of course it is a nice, beautiful cow, but what you see on this picture, that is what is classified. So if you ask us about the chest width, we can inform you. If you ask us about the foot angle, we can inform you. If you ask us about the rump width, we know what to tell you. Okay. Milk recording. Yes, milk recording. We record the liters of milk. We prefer to do it every day, but that's almost impossible. Yes, but we found out a way to come up with a reliable system, and we found out that a reliable milk recording system is a system where we check the amount of milk every 4 weeks. We'll take a sample every 4 weeks, so that means that we will know every 4 weeks exactly what the fat percentage is in the milk, what the protein percentage is in the milk, what the somatic cell count is in the milk, what the urea content is in the milk, and what the lactose content is in the milk. So, and based on that information, the farmer can decide what to do with his cow. Shall we treat her because of the high somatic cell count? Shall we kick her out because of the low fat? Shall we treat her because of the big gap between fat and protein? All that information comes out of the milk recording. The most important management paper actually on the modern dairy farm. Milk recording. Yeah? Okay. This is more or less the outcome, that every farmer after such a session receives a report with individual data from all the cows which are in the farm, whether it are 5 cows or 500 cows, doesn't matter. But he also will get an overview where he can see how his management goes. Yes? And the lines underneath, they should be more or less flat, because then it means that the manager is doing well, the feed specialist is doing well, that everybody is doing it the right way. And this is a piece of paper. When it enters the farm, it will be shared with all the workers and see, look, this is how we did in the last 4 weeks. This is how we do it. Or maybe the other way around, when it's a little bit like it shouldn't be. Then we talk to each other. How could it happen that the milk production in the last 4 weeks decreased and the fat percentage and the protein percentage increased, for example? How is it possible, my dear milkers, that the somatic cell count went up? What to do? What have we do together? And that's a responsibility, a team responsibility. Yeah? Okay. All this information is owned by the farmer. Yeah? It's only available for the farmer, but the farmer shares this information out of IDIS with his veterinarians, yes, with his feeding companies, yes, with his accountancy, but also with his hoof trimmers, yeah, and also with the breeding organization. And so if the farmer allows the breeding organization to dive into his data and see how several bulls are doing, okay, it's there. Yeah? So all the information is available by the farmer, is owned by the farmer, and again, and what is the role of Veepro? Veepro is actually the organization who motivates farmers, who stimulates feed companies, veterinarians and hoof trimmers, and to share this information, yes, and to make profit out of it. Okay, you may go. Now, why milk recording? I already did mention all the reasons which are being mentioned over here. Yeah, better management decisions, and I think that is the most important thing. Better management decisions, and know your cows. Like I said, we know our cows very well. And when you go to excursion in Holland, on a 200 or on a 500 dairy cow farm, and when you can ask what that cow, then you can immediately information, okay, she is sired by this and that bull, and she produced last week a certain amount of milk. Yes, everything is known. Yeah? We want to increase actually the net value of our cows, and that's our main goal, because all these information. And of course, more available management reports. Yes, a breeding organization will get management reports related to breeding. Yes, a fertility company will get management reports related to fertility. Yes, and together with all the specialists, with the feed specialists, with the veterinarians, yes, with the fertility specialists, we sit together and say, okay, how can we solve this problem? What is your idea? You're a feed specialist, but how can we solve this? You're the fertility specialist, and try to bring it together. Yes, again, the role of Veepro, to do it all together, not only abroad, but also in our own country. Yes. Then, if we know if we know a little bit how to manage the cow, if we know a little bit what we can expect, if we know that we are able to get guidance from an independent organization, now then I think it's almost time to get prepared and start training and to improve your skills. Agreed? Okay. Then we go to training center. It's mentioned on the logo, the Dairy Training Center in the Netherlands. World famous. And not because I did work there, but I don't work there anymore. But the Dairy Training Center, I think, is the only dairy training center in the world who can offer you theoretical training combined with practical training, or better said, the other way around. Because our focus on the Dairy Training Center still is learning by doing. Yes, we don't want you to know about the background of somatic cell counts, how it appears, how it exists. No, we want you to train, we want you to learn how to prevent, we want you to learn, and we want you to learn how to treat. Yeah? Same with artificial insemination. Yes, we want you to learn how to inseminate a cow. We want you to learn how to make cheese. We don't want you to learn how to describe it. No, we want you to learn how to do it. Yeah? So that's actually the dairy training center. Yeah? Educational philosophy is what I already have said, learning by doing. Yeah? Learning by doing, and we prefer on that training center to work with small groups, 6, 5 people. And when we go into hoof training, for example, a maximum of 4 people during the training. Yeah? And transfer and development of competency-based practical skills. So that actually means, more or less, if you want to have a training for your people, first try to find out what you want, come to the training center, and together we will prepare your training program. Yeah? So the message actually is that we want to do a market-oriented approach. Yes. The target groups in the Netherlands, of course, farmers, but also farmers abroad. Farm managers, especially farm managers abroad. Dairy processors, yes. Extension officers, sales managers, but